Joe Meeder, and together with Barbara Miller and Maurice Moffatt, we put together a presentation on fracking and its impact on the environment and health. And now we will go into an introduction to hydraulic fracturing.
Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, is the process of drilling injected fluid into the ground at high pressure in order to fracture shale rocks to release natural gas inside. So oil and gas is embedded into the rock. They take a drill and they drill vertically down. And once they hit the bottom, then they drill horizontally into the rock. Water and sand chemicals are pumped into the well. Up to 600 chemicals are used in the fracking fluid process, including carcinogens and toxins. Gas is then pumped out. The mixture reaches the end of the well where the high pressure causes the nearby shale rock to crack, creating fissures where natural gas flows into the well. And during this process, methane gas and toxic chemicals leach out from the system and they contaminate nearby groundwater. And this is an illustration of the environmental impact. They drill down vertically, and once they reach the bottom, they drill horizontally, and you can see the contaminated air and contaminated groundwater for the illustration.
So one of the environmental impacts that fracking causes are earthquakes. Fracking causes earthquakes. There was a notable event in North Alberta, magnitude of 4.4. Before fracking arrived seismically irrelevant 0 to 3 small earthquakes per year, and now there's up to 0 to 4 per day. Wastewater disposal also is another cause of the earthquakes. The wastewater wells are from the fracking, and then the fluid is flushed down deep into the earth, and then the fluid migrates down and reactivates the faults, which causes the earthquakes. The federal government is encouraging earthquake drills in the Midwest. The Midwest had 21 earthquakes annually over 3 magnitudes before fracking. Fracking earthquakes can be more destructive at lower magnitudes due to their depth of 1 to 2 kilometers. And there's no way to tell when these earthquakes will trigger.
So, now we will go into fracking's environmental impact on water supplies. So a lot of people believe that there's this blanket contamination from having a fracking well. It will contaminate the water and ground around it no matter what, but research has shown this to not be the case. Groundwater gets contaminated by faulty wells. What this really means is poor casing and cementing around the well as it goes down past the water tables. The problem here is that more than 6.5% of PA shale wells have this problem. They do leak. So it is a problem even though there is no blanket contamination. It also uses a large amount of water just for its process and contaminates that water. California last year in 2014 used 70 million gallons of water just for fracking, and this is in the midst of a historic drought. They don't have water for basic tasks anymore. They've had to cut an amazing amount, so this is a big problem for them. It's also started to cause some areas, especially down in the Southwest, to start banning fracking before it really even has gotten started because they have all these water issues. And within the next 10 years or so, fracking is supposed to take the equivalent of another large city out of the Colorado River, a river that is already stressed by humans taking water out of it.
We'll talk about the environmental impacts on evaporation pools. Wastewater is disposed in evaporation pools. Water meant to evaporate, separating the chemicals. It releases harmful, volatile, organic compounds into the atmosphere. And these organic compounds can cause acid rain, contaminate air, ground level ozone. It kills birds and can leak into the water supply. And only 30 to 50% of fracking fluid is recovered. The rest of the toxic fluid is left in the ground and is not biodegradable.
So the health impacts on humans is another problem with fracking. People who live near or work at fracking sites complain of new illnesses, which can include skin rash, open sores, nosebleeds, stomach cramps, loss of smell, swollen or itchy eyes, despondency, and depression. The ozone created when wastewater ponds evaporate and combine with diesel fuel can cause inflamed lungs, coughing, chest pain, and asthma. The human health is harmed by long or short exposure to the high ozone concentrations.
Farm animals are also affected to their health by fracking. Animals around fracking spills, so if a pasture is near a fracking well, there can be a spill. It often happens. What's mainly happening here, and it's mainly with cows, they get shorter lifespans, mutated reproduction, and sometimes even death or birthing dead calves. This mainly happens because these cows are either drinking these contaminants or being doused pretty much in them. And if this happened to humans, which it'd be hard to imagine a human either drinking it or getting doused in it, but these sort of things could happen to humans too under that circumstance. One specific case of accidental release of fluids resulted in 17 dead cows in 1 hour, and it's been found that 50% of a herd that this happens to will be affected by either death or breeding problems.
Next, I will talk about the aquatic life and the impact fracking has on it. I will use an example of a creek in Kentucky. This creek was pristine before fracking. It had an outstanding water resource, contained endangered species such as the black-side dace. After the fracking, water spilled into the water supply, killed virtually all of the aquatic life in the portions of that creek. It also gave them liver damage, gill lesions, and spleen damage. And the reason why this happens, chemical additives are used in the drilling mud, and each well produces millions of gallons of toxic fluid containing not only added chemicals but other naturally occurring radioactive material, liquid hydrocarbons, green water, and heavy metals. So this is what causes all of this damage to the aquatic life, and the entire population is at risk when even a small spill occurs.
So fracking is currently very harmful to people, animals, and the environment around it. Some key steps can be taken to limit this effect. Stop fracking or ensure well casings are not broken. Water testing for people and animal life is always taken care of. And we can also develop new green energy products which will not need fracking. Here are some of our sources that we use to gather information. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our presentation.